everybody, Calamity here, and today's kind of a new sort of thing I'm going to be doing on my channel, and I'm just going to be reading your guys' quote-unquote hot takes for Genshin Impact, and I'm not really here to debate with you or do this whole you're wrong kind of thing. I'm just here to read some of your guys' hot takes and just share my 2 cents. Maybe I'll agree with you, maybe I won't, depending on what it is. And before we even get started, first of all, I'm not censoring anyone's names here, but I expect y'all to just be nice about it. If you do see an opinion here that you just do not straight up agree with, please be nice about it. Please don't send hate messages. You will be shadow banned from my channel. Good? Alright, let's go ahead and start with the very first hot take that I got on my Discord. I had to have my Discord community help me out here because you guys didn't post enough comments on my YouTube post. So we'll go ahead and start there. Anyways, starting with Homegrown, he has a bunch of hot takes here. Let's just go through the whole thing. He says that Nilo and Yoimiya shouldn't be 5 stars, but Beto and Ningguang should. Fishing is useless. Child slash Tartaglia is lame. World Quest should be shorter and voiced. I don't know if that's changed. The game has no real good villains, and most of those personal character stories chapters just dragged ass takes too long to get through convos. Oh, and the skins I always thought most of them sucked compared to the standard. How am I paying for an ass skin? That's a lot to digest in one tiny paragraph, so let's take this one sentence at a time. So Nilo and Yoimiya shouldn't be 5-star characters. I disagree with Nilo not being shouldn't be a 5-star character. I think Nilo's great. She's the only character that still does a unique thing, and she has her own version of a reaction, basically, a much amplified version of the Bloom reaction. And it still does great AoE damage. And I don't know how she's doing these days. Obviously, I don't use her anymore because all the Nyland stuff, but I've heard some people still have some a little bit of success if you have some constellations on her. But I heard she's really strong. She is definitely a character that needs some heavy investment though, and good teammates to do well. So I do think she is deserving of the 5-star because it really depends on what's your criteria for a 5-star, right? Like, why do you not think she's a 5-star? Is it because her damage is low, in your opinion, or you don't like her kit? Really, I think she's unique enough to be granted the 5-star status. Yoimiya, I feel like could go either way. Her kit is very basic, I will say. Because you're not really doing anything with it other than normal attacks. You press E, you do your normal attacks, right? And her burst isn't that fantastic either. So I could definitely see her being a 4-star. I just wish, if she was a 4-star though, that would just mean all of her multipliers would be lower. And even as a 5-star, she's already struggling, keeping up with damage compared to everybody else. And not to mention, she can only hit really one target at a time with her normal attack, so that also puts her at a big disadvantage. Beto and Ningguang should be 5-stars though. I don't know if they should be 5-stars. I could kind of see it maybe at the beginning of Genshin, but I'm on the side of they should have a unique kit. And while Beto does have a very unique kit, at least for the time when she was released, the whole parry mechanic and her burst still doing something unique, right? I do think she would still need something more to boost her into that 5-star status. Now Ningguang, I understood from the beginning. Yeah, I actually thought the first time I saw her being used in a co-op game, I thought she was a 5-star, and then lo and behold, I did a standard pull, and I saw her show up as purple, and I was like, oh, she's not 5-star. Ningguang could definitely do great as a 5-star. If they fine-tune her kit a little bit more and she had a fancy animation when she does her burst. But yeah, she definitely is a strong character, continues to be a strong character, and thankfully, thanks to new artifacts, new teammates, I think Ningguang is still a pretty solid 4-star character. Fishing is useless. I will agree with this take only if you've gotten the catch Because the catch is one of the most useful weapons in the game, especially for a 4-star. In fact, it's a weapon that I use constantly, and I put it on my Xianling. You guys have seen my builds before, and like my Spiral Abyss stuff, and my Interior stuff, and I show the character builds. It's always on Xianling. It's a ton of free damage, and what she needs, which is a ton of free energy recharge. It's a very, very good free-to-play pole arm. Don't sleep on that. However, I will agree that every other weapon that we've had after the catch has been, like, meh. You know, like, I don't really... You know, after reading the effects of the weapons, I don't feel like I have to go out and fish and, like, oh, man, I really need this fishing weapon, or otherwise I'm gonna, you know, not have a best in slot or anything like that. It doesn't even feel that good. And I kind of... It's like a love-hate thing. It's kind of good that I don't have to fish anymore, but... that also means I'm not really getting any good weapons, which is also bad. I do wish fishing was a little bit more fun in Genshin. It does get tedious, and obviously we all know that Paimon really gets annoying at that point because you hear the same voice lines over and over again, and you have to fish for so long. So yeah, I wish it was a little bit better. And I wish it was worth doing, because I don't want useless modes in Genshin that we never touch again. Next up, Child/Tartaglia is lame. This is also a vague statement. Lame how? Because again, if you're talking about like story stuff and his involvement in it, I don't really cover story lore kind of things on this channel. Although I will say I didn't like his story quest where you have to lie to his what is it? His nephew or his like little brother or something like that. It's been a very long time since I did it. It's years old now. And I didn't really like that whole, he's evil, but we have to hide that he's evil to his siblings. It was weird. If we're just talking gameplay-wise, character-wise, he's still a very unique character, and he's very popular in the Asia regions, I know that. And I believe he's still very good as a endgame character. I've seen people post, you know, that they beat the current Spiral Abyss, this one, with a Tartaglia team, the ye old vaporized comp with Bene, Jiangling, Kazuha. That's still doing pretty well these days, which is insane to me. So good job for him. I believe he's just like in a solid spot. But it is kind of weird as a design, though. He is a bow character, but you're not really playing him like one. He just plays like a melee character, and he is still one of the few characters in this game that does dual wield. I wish there was more weapon types like that, or characters that did that, which would be really cool. World Quest should be shorter and voiced. I don't know if that's changed. No. It has not changed. I would say World Quests are still really long. I would say Sumeru's was the whole quote-unquote power spike in terms of World Quest getting really, really long and involved. Because before then, they weren't too bad. They were like a little short story here and then, maybe like one long one, but they felt like, you know, a decent pace. And then Sumeru, the R&R stuff was super long. And then they kind of toned it back down in Fontaine, and there's a couple of ones in like Nyland and stuff. But yeah, I do agree that the World Quests aren't very involved as much because they're not voice acted. None of them are, and which is really disappointing. And there's tons of texts with them, and this is a hot take. I don't know if this is a hot take because honestly, I don't know how the community feels about story stuff. I know I've seen a lot of you guys complain about story stuff or that you don't care, so maybe it's not that quite of a hot take to say that World Quests should be shorter. The game has no real good villains. I would agree, actually. Every villain, I guess, is a story spoiler, so for those that don't want or that aren't far in the story yet, you might want to skip on over here. But like, I do agree that a lot of the villains in this game end up being good guys that we become friends with. I mean, ever since Leeway, right? We met Child/Tartaglia. He was a villain in that arc, and we fought him, and now we're like best buddies, which was cool at first. I guess there were some villains like La Senora who did end up dying, but then there's Wanderer, who kind of the same thing as followed the same route as Tartaglia. It was like evil at the beginning, right? Now we're kind of buddies. Then Arlecchino in Fontaine came along, and she was also evil, but then you learn her story, and we're not really buddy, but we're like, you know, they're trying to like paint her as she's not, you know, completely evil. And then, of course, if you did an alien, the whole Capitano character, pretty much the same thing. So yeah, there isn't really like an evil character. Like I highly doubt, our sibling or whatever is gonna, be evil. I'm sure we're gonna find out what happened to them, and then we're gonna be best buds again, and all that stuff. So yeah, I do agree. There isn't really good villains in this in the game. At least currently not right now. Maybe the Doctor, but he hasn't been around enough. I would love to see him return in the story at some point. All right, I'm moving on. Most of the personal character stories chapters dragged too long to get through conversations. I agree. I don't know if this is a hot take or whatnot, but I understand if you are doing like a personal story quest or a hangout for a character that you enjoy, I'm sure it doesn't feel bad. But if it's a character you don't really care about and you're just here for the gems, then yeah, they can definitely feel like they drag on too long and there's not much of a point to it. Again, they can be nice and stuff, little like filler episodes and stuff like that, but it would be nice if Genshin gave us a skip button, which I know will never happen, but it's nice to dream. And then the skins, most of them suck. That's honestly personal preference. Can't really do anything about that. But at least you don't have to pay for them, and some of them end up being free in the event. I know we're probably gonna get another pair of skins in the summer, but I have said this before, or I think Genshin or Hoyoverse should make more skins more often. I don't know why it's like a once a year kind of thing. They have tons of characters in this game now. It'd be a really easy way to make some money to make just some easy skins that people can buy. Maybe even weapon skins would be a good idea. And it's just easy money. Yet they don't want to like take advantage of this. Because in my opinion, if they made more money in other ways, my mind wants to say they'll be nicer and more generous with the primo gems, but I doubt it. Anyways, good hot takes, homegrown, at least some of them. Some of them I'm not so sure, but overall, nice hot takes. Alright, next up is a hot take from Edmar. I don't know if this is a hot take at all, honestly. Chronicle banner is a waste. I believe the consensus is, yeah, don't really pull for the Chronicle banner unless there's a specific character that you want. Now, if we were talking about Chronicle banners in the past where they shoved in standard characters in those banners, yeah, they would be a waste because it was like pulling on the standard banner with a slight chance of getting what you want. But then you would have to pull for a guarantee basically to get the character, if you're lucky, of course, and the weapon. But I believe the Inazuma is a good Chronicle banner, not a waste if it's something that you've been wanting, a bunch of different Inazuma characters finally getting rerun banner, which is nice, and all of their weapons. So all of the Inazuma characters that are currently on this next Chronicle banner, which I'll be making a video for, by the way, are limited characters, and they have their respective signature weapons. So honestly, pull for you want, and it's a nice way of having, multiple rerun banners at once. I just hope they continue to not put standard characters in the banner, please. In fact, I wish they increase the chances of you getting also the 4 stars as well. Like, put Goro on there and, like Fujo Sara and stuff like that, just so that we have more options, or not, excuse me, not options, but more Inazuma characters that you're pulling for when you pull for these characters. It's not really a waste though, unless you're caring about meta stuff. I know some people care more about collecting characters than just meta. Obviously, a lot of the Inazuma characters have gotten power crept, so it could be a waste in that sense. Their hot take is Hoyo needs to do more quests, longer quests, more lore, and lots more skins. Not just for characters, but weapons too. This is mostly a hot take, I would say, because more quests isn't bad if we're getting rewarded for them, right? If we're getting primo gems for our time, sure. I just wish it was more, and we'd be getting more wishes. Longer quests, that's a hot take. Whew. Some of them already feel too long for me. I don't know how you guys feel about the duration of the quest, but I do feel like some of the conversations and the yapping do go on for a bit too long on several quests. And they don't really lead to anywhere interesting, so I do not think longer quests is it, but I do agree that is a hot take. More lore, I actually wouldn't mind this. It just depends on the presentation, because you could argue world quests give you lore, but it's presented in such a boring way. Like, some of it is just, as we already know, it's not voice acted, first of all. And some of the lore that you're reading about is like, oh, here's like you know, an old diary that you found in the cave, or like some old scribblings on a wall and stuff like that. That could be like your lore presentation. It's not that interesting, maybe like a couple times, but if it's presented in a more exciting and entertaining way, I wouldn't mind it. Then lots more skins. I kind of already touched on that, so yeah, I don't think that's a hot take though, because honestly, I think we all want skins for characters. It's a nice way of, you know, changing the way your characters looked after so long. I do like the Diluc skin that changes up, you know, his abilities and the way stuff looks is actually really cool. And I wish Hoyoverse actually delved more into doing stuff like that. Not just for characters, but weapons too. Yeah, weapon skins would be cool if you don't like the way a particular weapon looks. Like, I've said this a lot in like my old guides where I recommend weapons, and someone will make a, you know, like a compliment, or not a comment, and say something like, "Oh yeah, but I use this weapon because it looks good on the character. It has a drip." Well, it'd be nice if you could equip like a weapon that's good for the character and then change the way it looks like via its skin to something that you like to match whatever drip, or I know people like to play fashion impact and stuff like that. So it'd be nice to have an option. All right, YouTube, I didn't forget about you. Here's you guys. These are all the comments I got on my post asking for you guys' hot takes. We got two of them. One from Power123-05. New players should be okay missing event lures and event weapons as they weren't playing the game when it was ongoing. That's definitely a hot take, because there's been a huge, like, I know a lot of people have been asking Hoyoverse to, like, hey, you know, let us replay old events and re-experience them again, and let new players experience them because you're missing out, etc., etc. So I do agree that I feel like new players, you know, why not? They should be able to revisit old events and stuff like that. They're allowed to play, you know, like old parts of the story, why not the event parts? And I feel it's weird that Genshin doesn't do this, because Honkai Star Rail allows you to go back and play old events. You know, all the old big events that you might have missed in the past. You can go back and play them all. I don't know if you get the same amount of rewards, but this is probably the biggest reason I advocate for this, is because I think new players should be able to access these events so that they can get more Primogems and more resources and stuff to go through. I just don't think a lot of people are doing it for the story or the lore. I know a lot of people just do the events because, you know, it gives you a bunch of free stuff. And to be honest, other than like a small handful of weapons, a lot of the event weapons aren't even that good anyway, so they're not missing out on much. But if you do care about the story, at the very least, new players, you can use, you know, YouTube or something to watch someone that, you know, go through the event and stuff like that. It's not the same, I know, but at least you do have an option to watch it if you are interested. And next up is Hear Me Learn. Old characters, particularly old limited 5-star characters, should be buffed in line with at least Fontaine amount of power level. I don't think this is a hot take. Personally, I do think this is lukewarm. Because, you know, we all want that, right? Like, I've been saying this about... I mean, you're saying this about limited 5-star, I'm saying this about, like, standard characters. Like, Chi-Chi, for example, could use a nice buff and maybe, like, even a small tweak to her kit. Amber, same thing. Kea, Lisa, be nice to have some like tweaks here and there. Maybe tune up those multipliers so that they're a little bit in tune with the newer characters, so they don't fall behind. If we want to talk about like limited 5-star characters, that would be like Venti, Klee, Tartaglia, and yeah, definitely those characters as well could definitely use a buff. Some of them are still good, like Zhongli, for example, is still a solid shielder and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think it's a hot take to say that old characters should be buffed. And this is something that a lot of gacha games do. I'm sure for those of you that have played other gacha games, they go back and maybe instead of like straight up buffing the characters, like in a patch, they'll like add a new mechanic that allows you to go back and maybe they add more upgrades to the characters or something like that. So for example, Honkai Star Rail again, I know they tried to go back to older characters, and now on that like upgrade passive tree, they added more stuff for you to upgrade and stuff like that, which is a really good way to go about doing it. I wish they would do the same for, you know, old Genshin characters. Maybe give them a new passive talent or something, and maybe raise specifically their levels, right? Maybe they can get to like level 100 or something where they can get it, you know, like a bit more stats and stuff like that. Would be nice for them. There's a lot of ways they could do this so that they don't have to like, it doesn't feel like you wasted your pulls on an old character. It shouldn't feel that way, and that kind of sucks. That's just how gacha games tend to be, but there's definitely more the devs could do so it doesn't feel like you're missing out by not pulling, you know, a meta character versus a character you want. All right, this is the last hot take I got from you guys, and it's coming to us from Raycaster24, and he says the TCG should have primo gem events to make people play it. This is technically a thing if you consider the fact that the battle pass, I don't know, does the battle pass still have that weekly where you have to play the TCG like 2 rounds or something once per week and you get battle pass XP? That's technically doing it for gems, but I understand what you mean. You want like a whole event that's centered around the card game, and honestly, yeah, I would say this is definitely a hot take, at least for me, because I don't like the card game. It's cool that they made like this whole in-depth mini-game mode in Genshin, but honestly, I feel like Hoyoverse, you probably missed yet another gold mine. You could have just made a separate, this could have been like its own thing, its own separate card game. Maybe they're working on it. Who knows? And you definitely could have made money off of it that way instead of putting it in a gacha game, because I'm not really playing Genshin because, ooh, I want to play a card game on the side. And it's kind of weird that I remember a while back, Hoyoverse was trying to make it like an esport thing. They had tournaments for it and stuff, and they broadcasted it on their main channel. Not really something I'm interested in. I'm just not a card person exactly. Like I'm not big on Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, but you know, I'm not into it like that. So definitely a hot take, and it doesn't feel good to force players to play stuff they don't like. Even though Genshin kind of does that a little bit, but it's not too bad, I would say. For example, like the teapot. You know, not everyone cares about decorating a little an area. Some people just want to play, and you do have to interact with it because there's a lot of gems in there, and it's very useful for a lot of resources and stuff like that, and helps get your friendship level up and other useful things like that. But yeah, I can understand if like it would be nice to have more ways to get primo gems, but please do it in other ways. Not with the TCG. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I feel like it was cool when it first came out and everyone kind of played it, but now everyone's like, all right, you know, I've had my fill, and it's kind of just not that popular these days. But I'm not sure. Maybe it's still popular in other areas. But that's gonna be it for your guys' hot takes. I would say you guys did a good job for the most part. If you guys have your own hot take and you want to see me do more of these kinds of videos again, just leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below with your hot take, and maybe I'll do this video again and I'll react to some hot takes in the comments, and it'll be a nice time. But other than that, thank you all for watching and hanging out. I appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video.